Have you ever looked someone in the eye and felt a chill run down your spine without any logical reason? Sometimes the most dangerous people wear the warmest smiles. They don't shout their intentions. They whisper them through charm. Evil isn't always cloaked in darkness. Often it hides in plain sight, sitting next to you in a meeting, laughing with you at dinner, or offering to help when you're most vulnerable. Let's talk about evil, not in the movies or fairy tales, but the real kind. The word alone can trigger an uneasy feeling deep inside. And while it's hard to define, we know it the moment we feel it. We don't need evidence. We don't even need to hear a word. Because evil doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. Instead, it blends in, carefully dressed in politeness, generosity, and smiles that don't quite reach the eyes. But here's the unsettling truth. Evil isn't always lurking in the shadows or hiding behind locked doors. Sometimes it thrives in the very spaces we consider safe. In schools, places of worship, even in the homes of people we thought we could trust. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's not loud, it's quiet. And that silence is what gives it power. But something changes the moment you see it for what it is. Once you strip away the mask and recognize the darkness behind the facade, evil doesn't quietly walk away. It responds, and not in the way you might expect. It doesn't fight with fists. It fights with games, with manipulation, with confusion. It studies your fears and then plays them like a piano. Suddenly, conversations feel like traps. Actions feel off. The charm becomes unsettling. In this video, we're going to expose that game. We'll look at these behaviors under the sharp lens of Stoic philosophy, timeless wisdom that cuts through chaos with calm clarity. We'll walk through 7 specific behaviors evil people display once they know you've figured them out. This isn't just about recognizing red flags. It's about staying centered when those flags start waving wildly in front of you. Because the best defense against manipulation isn't rage, it's reason. And the most powerful weapon you have is knowledge. By the end of this video, you won't just spot the darkness. You'll know how to face it with strength, clarity, and unshakable calm. Let's begin. Sign number 1. They give off strange vibrations. Vibrations. What are they really? They're not just passing feelings. They're deep, gut-level instincts, the kind of invisible signal that rings like an alarm inside your soul. Everything in life, including people, carries energy. And when someone has harmful intentions, that energy isn't subtle. It disturbs the air around you. Have you ever entered a room and instantly felt like something was off, but couldn't quite explain why? That's not just your mind playing tricks. That's vibration. That's instinct. It's the energy of a toxic presence trying to disguise itself. But your spirit knows better. When someone with dark motives realizes you've seen through their mask, their entire demeanor starts to shift. The once effortless smiles now seem forced. Harmless questions suddenly carry a strange edge. Something unspoken changes in the air between you, and that's just the beginning. Now, let's move deeper, because the second sign reveals even more about how evil hides behind the illusion of charm. The shift in energy we discussed earlier is just the beginning. Once you stop playing along, something far more invasive begins to unfold. You may notice how every interaction starts to feel like a test. Every question they ask feels loaded. Every comment, no matter how casual, seems to carry a hidden edge. It's as if their very presence is saying, "I'm watching you. I'm not letting this go." That strange energy, it's no accident. It's not just discomfort, it's a weapon, a calculated tactic designed to shake your balance and reassert their control. I've lived this before, in a professional setting where trust is supposed to be a given. A colleague, once friendly and cooperative, slowly revealed a different side, envious, manipulative, always looking for ways to gain the upper hand. When I finally saw them for who they were and began to distance myself, they didn't lash out directly. No, that would have been too obvious. Instead, they shifted into a quieter, more strategic mode. They began asking oddly specific questions. That didn't make sense, checking in when it wasn't necessary, watching me more closely than before. And behind my back, they planted seeds of doubt among others, spinning rumors to erode my credibility. At first, it worked. I was anxious. I lost sleep. I played mental chess with their every move, but then something changed. I stopped engaging. I stopped giving them fuel. I refocused on my work and, more importantly, on my mindset, and that's when their power began to fade. The Stoics knew this all too well. Epictetus once said, "We are not disturbed by what happens around us, but by how we interpret it." The truth is, negative energy can only harm you if you accept it into your mind. Those invasive questions, those chilling vibes, they're just noise unless you let them become your reality. Every time someone tries to shake your peace, you're being offered a choice: react or remain composed. When you choose the latter, you rob them of their power. You show that their games cannot break your clarity, your discipline, or your self-command. So, let me ask you, have you ever felt this? That unexplainable tension when someone walks into the room, that creeping discomfort when you're alone with someone who seems too curious, too controlled? How did you handle it? Feel free to share your story. These quiet battles are more common than we think, and learning from each other can be a powerful reminder. Even in the most subtle wars, inner peace is still our strongest shield. Now let's look deeper, because the next tactic is even more insidious. When they know you've caught them in a lie, they don't stop lying, they double down. Sign number 2. They lie to cover up. Past lies are never isolated. They grow, stack, and tangle like a web, each new one built to support the old, until the person spinning them can no longer keep track. And when someone with malicious intent realizes their truth has been exposed, they don't confess. They fabricate. Instead of owning up, they scramble to patch the cracks in their story. One deception leads to another, and before long, they're trapped in a maze of their own creation. It's a desperate attempt to regain control, to rewrite the truth before it slips too far from their grasp. As Epictetus wisely said, "Man cannot learn what he thinks he already knows." And that's the danger here. Someone who lies to preserve their illusion is incapable of growth. They'd rather dig deeper into delusion than face the clarity of truth. But this behavior isn't just frustrating, it's revealing. Those who lie to protect their illusions eventually become trapped in the very deception they created. But it goes deeper, because the longer they run from the truth, the more they lose sight of who they really are. This is what defines those who live by lies. They don't just deceive others, they construct a cage around themselves, locking out truth and locking in ignorance. With every lie they tell, they build another wall between themselves and reality. And the saddest part? They often don't even realize it. The truth is, we've all encountered lies, both from others and, if we're honest, sometimes from ourselves. Research even suggests that the average person tells 1 to 2 lies a day. These are often harmless, a joke to smooth over a situation or a gentle excuse to avoid hurting someone's feelings. But when we shift from harmless to harmful, everything changes. Malicious individuals don't lie to spare others. They lie to protect themselves. They twist the truth not out of kindness, but out of self-interest. When their lie is exposed, they don't own it. They double down, weaving more deception to cover the original. One falsehood becomes 5, then 10, until they're buried beneath a mountain of their own making. This creates an endless loop, a chain of betrayal, not just against others, but against themselves. Because the deeper they dig, the harder it is to climb out. And whether they admit it or not, they know, somewhere deep within, they feel the erosion. With each lie, their inner integrity withers. Their relationships suffer. Their sense of self grows distorted. I remember this from personal experience. There was a close friend I once trusted completely. He came to me during what he claimed was a rough patch financially. He seemed genuine, desperate even. Without hesitation, I lent him the money. I believed in his story. I believed in him. But later, the truth surfaced. He hadn't used the money for survival. He'd spent it on lavish, unnecessary things he'd never mentioned. And when I gently confronted him, hoping for honesty, I was met with denial. Not only did he reject any wrongdoing, but he spun a new tale, blaming others, blaming fate, even trying to guilt me for questioning him. That moment taught me something crucial. For people like this, trust isn't sacred. It's a tool, a resource they'll use and discard if it serves their agenda. They will sacrifice relationships, truth, and even their own integrity to preserve the illusion they're desperate to maintain. But here's what Stoic philosophy reminds us. It's not the event itself that disturbs us, it's how we respond to it. Don't let someone else's lies hijack your inner peace. Don't chase justice in every corner. Stand your ground in truth. Lies will collapse under their own weight. But truth holds its ground, quiet, steady, and unshakable. And now, let's turn to the next warning sign, because when lies no longer work, malicious individuals often resort to something even more personal. They begin to mimic your behavior. When lies no longer serve their purpose and their mask begins to slip, manipulative individuals often change strategy. That's when another pattern emerges, one that's just as calculated but far more personal. Sign number 3. They only come around when it benefits them. Have you ever felt like someone was just passing through your life, stopping by only when it served their purpose? As if you were nothing more than a pit stop on their journey? They show up with flattering words, warm smiles, and gestures that seem sincere. They say the right things. They make you feel seen and appreciated. But then, as soon as they get what they came for, they disappear, without warning, without explanation. At first, you may question yourself. Was I too trusting? Too generous? You wonder if your kindness has been misread, or worse, exploited. The truth is, people like this never valued you for who you are. They value what they can take from you, your time, your energy, your resources, and when they realize that you've seen behind the curtain, that you've figured out their game, their approach shifts. They become more strategic, more intentional. Suddenly, they're not just dropping by randomly. Every interaction feels calculated. They want to maintain the illusion of closeness, of loyalty. They appear during your victories when there's something to gain. But when you're struggling, when you truly need support, they vanish. No texts, no calls, no concern. Their silence speaks volumes. These people are opportunists in disguise. They carefully measure their presence based on personal gain, and when there's nothing left to take, they vanish into the background, leaving you feeling used and emotionally abandoned. But perhaps the most frustrating part? When the storm passes, when you've recovered and moved forward, they suddenly reappear. They return with crafted excuses and apologetic words that sound polished, almost rehearsed. They say things like, "I didn't want to burden you," or "I thought you needed space." But their timing isn't about you. It's about what they think they can gain again. They count on your forgiving nature. They hope your empathy will give them another chance. But Stoic wisdom reminds us, kindness should never be blind. I experienced this personally with a colleague who had always seemed supportive. He volunteered extra time on projects, offered thoughtful advice, and gave the impression of being a reliable partner. I truly believed he had my back. Then one day, I hit a crisis, a real challenge that shook everything. I needed support. And he was nowhere. No message, no word, just quiet, distant avoidance. He stood on the sidelines and watched. When the situation passed and I managed to recover on my own, he returned. He offered excuses, said he was too busy, claimed he didn't want to overwhelm me. But in that moment it became clear he wasn't the ally I thought he was. He was present only when it suited him. In moments like these, Stoic philosophy offers us powerful clarity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." We can't control how others treat us, but we can choose how we respond. There's no need for resentment, only recognition. The absence of such people isn't a loss, it's a revelation. And next, we'll uncover another manipulative behavior. When they can no longer use charm or excuses, they start turning others against you, letting go of people who only show up. When it benefits them isn't a loss, it's liberation. It's your chance to clear the emotional clutter and focus on what truly matters. Relationships built on honesty, presence, and mutual respect. Remember this: kindness is not weakness. It's a profound strength, but only when paired with the courage to set boundaries. Those who genuinely care about you won't take advantage of your goodness. They'll be there when it's hard, not just when it's convenient. So ask yourself, have you ever been treated as a stepping stone by someone you trusted? Have you ever had to learn the hard way who was only around for the benefits? If so, you're not alone. Share your experience, because by learning from one another, we grow wiser, stronger, and more capable of protecting our peace. Sign number 4. They try to make you feel stupid now. Let's talk about something that cuts deeper than silence or absence. Words that wound while pretending to care. Have you ever opened up to someone about your struggles, hoping for support, only to be met with responses like, "Why didn't you see that coming?" or "Why would you even do that?" On the surface, these might sound like innocent questions, but beneath them lies something darker, a hidden message designed to make you feel inadequate What should have been a moment of empathy turns into subtle humiliation. Their words may not be loud or cruel, but their impact is heavy. You start to shrink. Doubt creeps in. You question your judgment, your decisions, even your worth. This is not support. It's manipulation masked as concern. In that moment, they've done exactly what they intended, made you feel small, confused, and emotionally dependent. Toxic individuals often use this tactic as a way to maintain psychological control. Their goal isn't to understand you. It's to make you question yourself so that you become easier to influence. And the more you internalize their doubt, the more power you hand over to them, often without realizing it. And here's what makes it even more dangerous. They don't do this by yelling or arguing. They do it subtly, through backhanded comments, dismissive tones, or sharp critiques, camouflaged as just being honest. They chip away at your confidence until you're more likely to seek their approval, their guidance, their validation, not because they're wise, but because they've convinced you you're not. Instead of being companions, they become quiet controllers, people who hide behind charm while orchestrating your self-doubt. Stoic philosophy offers us a powerful lens through which to view this behavior. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words remind us, no one can make you feel small unless you hand them that power. Insults, mockery, or passive-aggressive jabs only harm us if we absorb them. A Stoic doesn't react in anger or sorrow. They pause. They observe. They ask, is this truly about me or about them? And in that space of clarity, they reclaim control. I experienced this personally while traveling abroad. I met someone who seemed genuinely thoughtful, always eager to help, always saying the right things. But over time, I noticed something strange. Every time I shared an idea or a decision I was proud of, his response wasn't encouragement. It was veiled criticism, sarcastic remarks, subtle jabs that made me second-guess myself. At first, I brushed it off. But eventually, I realized this wasn't about helping me grow. It was about making me feel small so he could feel big. Next, we'll dive even deeper into how these individuals don't just manipulate you directly, but how they quietly recruit others to turn against you. In the last part, we explored how toxic individuals try to chip away at your confidence, using veiled criticism and mock concern to make you feel small. But once they sense that tactic no longer works, they often change course, and their next move, it's even more deceptive. Sign number 5. They come with a new reputation. Before we go there, let's finish this thread on self-worth. When someone repeatedly makes comments like, "Why didn't you think that through?" or "That should have been obvious. It doesn't take long for doubt to settle in." That's what happened to me. I began to question my own judgment, wondering if I was overreacting or simply not good enough. But time brought clarity. I realized this person wasn't trying to help me grow. He wasn't challenging me out of care. He wanted to control how I saw myself. And that realization changed everything. Through Stoic philosophy, I learned to step back, not emotionally, but mentally. Instead of letting his words penetrate my peace, I practiced stillness. I reminded myself of one unshakable truth. My reaction was mine to control. No one could take that from me unless I handed it over. Once I reclaimed that power, his remarks lost their weight. I no longer needed his approval. I no longer sought validation from someone who quietly enjoyed watching me shrink. Always remember this: your worth isn't tied to someone else's opinion. It lives in how you respond when tested, when challenged, when misunderstood. Toxic people can only diminish your confidence if you let their voice drown out your own. So, stand firm, guard your mind, and protect your peace. Now, let's move forward. Some toxic individuals, when exposed, don't retreat or apologize. Instead, they rebrand. Have you ever looked at someone and felt that something about them didn't quite match their words? As if behind their politeness and charm, there was something much colder, calculated. You're not imagining things. Evil doesn't always roar. It often whispers, and it rarely announces itself. Instead, it presents a carefully constructed image, polished, likable, even admirable. That's what makes it so dangerous. But here's the truly chilling part. Once they know you've seen behind their mask, they don't break character. They just rewrite the script. Rather than facing the truth, they start crafting a new version of themselves, complete with fresh explanations, emotional stories, and perfectly rehearsed words. It's not about honesty, it's about manipulation. They want you to doubt your instincts, to wonder, did I misjudge them? Maybe I was too harsh. These individuals are not just liars, they're illusionists, masters of psychological sleight of hand. Their new narrative is designed to make you question the reality you've uncovered, to pull you back into their version of events. One where they are the misunderstood, the wronged, the victim. Imagine looking at someone and thinking, they seem different now. Maybe I was wrong about them. That's the trap. And in the next part, we'll reveal exactly how they use this tactic to not only deceive you, but to turn others against you as well. In the previous part, we saw how manipulators, when exposed, don't admit wrongdoing. They reinvent themselves, crafting emotional narratives to make you question what you know to be true. Let's take this further. Imagine this. There's a colleague known widely for being deceptive, someone whose reputation for dishonesty precedes them. One day, you confront them, ready for the truth. But instead of owning up, they give you a heartfelt story. They speak of pain, a difficult past, mistakes they've made, and how they've changed. Their voice trembles. Their eyes seem sincere. Suddenly, your certainty wavers. You begin to wonder, have I been too harsh? Maybe they really are trying. Maybe I misunderstood them. But that's the game. This isn't vulnerability. It's strategy. Their goal isn't to clear the air. It's to cloud your mind. They plant seeds of confusion, making you second-guess what your intuition already knows. And once you start doubting yourself, they regain control, quietly, subtly, without ever admitting fault. I've experienced this firsthand. Someone I trusted deeply turned out to be hiding layers of manipulation. When I discovered the truth and brought it to light, I expected confrontation, or at least honesty. But what I got instead was a master class in storytelling, a long emotional tale meant to shift blame, generate sympathy, and rewrite the narrative. And for a while, it worked. I stayed up at night, wrestling with guilt. What if I was wrong? What if I misjudged them? Their story echoed in my head until I realized none of it was about truth. Every word was a smokescreen. Marcus Aurelius once said, The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And manipulators know this better than anyone. If they can influence your thoughts, they can paint over your reality. They don't just change appearances, they try to stain your judgment. But Stoic philosophy offers a defense. Clarity. Keep your mind clear. Don't let temporary emotions or clever lies muddy your perception. When someone goes to great lengths to rebuild their image after being exposed, remember, true remorse is shown in actions, not in perfectly rehearsed speeches. Evil doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. And even when it seems to change form, it leaves behind a strange energy, an unease you can't quite name. When you feel that, don't ignore it. Trust the subtle signals your gut is sending. They might be your last line of defense. Don't let someone else's fiction override your truth. Stay alert, stay grounded, and above all, protect the integrity of your own mind. Now, let's move into the next sign. Because when manipulation fails, many toxic individuals fall back on a familiar move, pretending they have no idea what they've done. Innocence becomes their disguise. When direct confrontation fails, some toxic individuals resort to something far more subtle, pretending to be clueless as if they had no idea what they did wrong. But make no mistake, this isn't forgetfulness. It's a calculated form of psychological manipulation. Sign number 6. They pretend not to know what they are. This behavior often surfaces in moments when you're most vulnerable, when you open up hoping for understanding or even just a sincere apology. But instead of compassion, you're met with something else entirely. They tilt their head, their voice softens, and then they say something like, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" A question that seems innocent on the surface, but carries a sharp hidden edge. Suddenly the conversation shifts. Your feelings aren't validated, they're dismissed. And before you know it, you're the one being questioned. You came in seeking resolution, but now you're defending yourself, explaining your emotions, trying to justify your pain. It's not clumsiness, it's control. I remember going through something just like this. When I moved to a new place, I became close with someone I believed was trustworthy, reliable, even kind. But over time, I noticed a pattern. They took advantage of my generosity, manipulated situations, and slowly began to chip away at the balance in our friendship. Eventually, I reached my breaking point. I spoke up. I laid out my feelings clearly and calmly. But their response, a feigned look of surprise. "Oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Why didn't you just say something earlier?" The tone was both sweet and sharp, innocent, but subtly dismissive. And in that moment, I didn't just feel hurt. I felt destabilized. I started to question myself. Was I overreacting? Was I being unfair? But after some space and reflection, the truth came into focus. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a tactic. A way to twist the situation so I'd feel guilty for bringing it up in the first place. It was emotional manipulation, disguised as ignorance. Stoic philosophy offers powerful clarity in situations like this. Epictetus once said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." In other words, it's not what happens, it's how we interpret and respond that determines our peace. These individuals may do everything in their power to rewrite the story, to cast themselves as victims and avoid consequences. But that doesn't mean you have to play along. You have every right to trust your truth. You have every right to stand firm in what you felt, what you saw, and what you experienced. Their confusion is not your burden to carry. Remain grounded. Don't let their evasion distort your reality. Stoicism reminds us that true strength lies in inner stillness, in self-control, and in the courage to hold the line, even when someone tries to blur it. Because in the end, truth is your compass, and it will always guide you through the fog of deceit. Now let's turn to the final sign. When all else fails and subtle tactics fall short, manipulators often reveal their core strategy: direct psychological manipulation. Let's explore how it works. In the last section, we explored how some people feign innocence to dodge accountability. But when that no longer works, they often escalate to something more insidious: direct manipulation masked as care. Sign number 7. They try to manipulate you. Manipulation doesn't always wear a sinister face. In fact, it often arrives looking like concern, dressed in kindness, and wrapped in the language of love. But behind the gentle tone and reassuring words is something far more dangerous: a desire to control how you think, feel, and live. These individuals don't scream or command. Instead, they subtly take the reins of your emotions. You begin to doubt yourself, your decisions, your confidence, even your worth. And over time, without realizing it, you become dependent on their approval, their perspective, their presence. Picture someone close to you, someone who always checks in, offers advice, and insists they just want what's best for you. On the surface, it seems like love, but dig a little deeper and you begin to notice their advice often discourages action, their concern often plants fear, and their support always seems to come with strings attached. I remember a story shared by a woman who struggled with this very thing. Every time she felt ready to open her heart to a new relationship, her mother would say something like, "Are you sure they won't hurt you?" Or, "Think about all the mistakes you've made before." These words didn't scream abuse. They whispered doubt. They weren't direct orders, but they were powerful enough to plant fear, to shake her confidence, and to make her retreat from chances that could have brought real joy. What seemed like motherly care was, in truth, emotional manipulation disguised as love. Manipulators like this are experts at reading your vulnerabilities, but they don't stop there. They use what they learn against you. They slowly erode your independence, convincing you that you can't trust your own judgment. And when you feel small enough, they offer themselves as your only lifeline. It's a cycle designed to keep you emotionally tethered, step by calculated step. According to Stoic Philosophy, true freedom and happiness are never found in the approval of others. They're found within, in the mastery of our own minds. Allowing someone else to control how you feel and what you do is not care, it's captivity. A Stoic would never surrender that internal freedom. For them, personal autonomy is sacred. One common method manipulators use is to make you feel incapable. They subtly plant the belief that without them, your life will fall apart. A man once shared with me how his wife would constantly say things like, "You can't take care of the kids on your own," or "What do you know besides making money?" At first, he brushed it off. But hearing those words day after day, his confidence crumbled. He stopped making decisions on his own. He stopped trusting himself. And eventually he became entirely dependent on her validation. To break free from this kind of control, You need more than realization. You need firm boundaries. When you say no, stand by it. When you set limits, don't let guilt or pressure bend them. As Stoicism teaches, we can't control how others behave, but we are always in charge of how we respond. That's where our strength lives. That's where our freedom begins. In the final part of this video, let's bring all the signs together and talk about how to apply Stoic wisdom to protect yourself, not just from others, but from the self-doubt they try to plant within you. In the previous section, we explored how manipulators disguise control as care. But the key lesson remains the same. How you respond is where your true power lies. No one can control your mind unless you give them permission. Manipulation, no matter how subtle or aggressive, only works if you allow it. A self-reliant, grounded mind, sharpened through awareness and inner discipline, doesn't bend to emotional games. It sees through illusions. It stands firm. This is your moment to reclaim that strength, to stop playing their game, to refuse to be pulled by their strings. Let the pain they caused become your fuel, not your prison. Let it forge your clarity and deepen your resolve. Now that we've walked through the 7 behaviors toxic individuals reveal when they know you've figured them out, the picture becomes clear. These aren't just signs to observe, they're signals to act. Each one exposes a strategy designed to manipulate, distract, or dominate. But more importantly, each one is a reminder you can choose how to protect your peace. Shikitore. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our greatest strength isn't in fighting external enemies, it's in mastering ourselves. Inner calm, emotional discipline, steadfast clarity. These are the tools that allow you to navigate even the darkest manipulation without losing your light. Because here's the truth, they can try to twist your words, test your limits, or shake your trust, but they cannot shake your soul unless you let them in. Every time you say no to manipulation, every time you center yourself in reason rather than reaction, you reclaim ownership over your life. That is, the real victory, not in changing them, but in refusing to be changed by them. Let the lessons in this video become part of your mental armor, subtle, unshakable, and ever-present. With clarity as your compass and calm as your shield, you can face any challenge with quiet courage. So now, I ask you, what did this message awaken in you? Do you feel more prepared to identify and confront the toxic patterns that may be hiding in plain sight? If this video resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. You never know who's struggling silently. Your action could offer them a lifeline of wisdom. And if you'd like to continue building your inner strength and practicing the art of emotional resilience, be sure to subscribe so we can keep growing together on this journey towards self-mastery. Finally, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Have you encountered these signs before? How did you break free? Your experience might be the very encouragement someone else needs to reclaim their peace. Until next time, stay strong, stay steady, and above all, protect the peace within your soul.